it's mad. When everywhere in the world have problem, everywhere need God. Tell them easy no man. From your love think it's bad. Full time if we big up me.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. You're in tune to WinFM 98.9 on your radio dial. It's Friday morning. It's gloomy on my inside. It's very bright on the outside. It's just not normal like me because I'm like water off a duck's back. I don't really get caught up with the trivialities and situations and stuff of what's going on in the world. But this time I think I'm hooked. Yeah, we are seeing what's happening in Ukraine. It's the saddest situation. It's Black History Month. We are celebrating that. We are, as a people, there are lots of other experiences that we are getting. And so, therefore, there's certain decisions that we have to make. You know, as I walked out this morning and wondered what I was going to talk about, which is the unfortunate situation that I do all the time, is that I cease to prepare because I don't know what tomorrow holds. And I do not plan and hope that when you get there, based on your feelings, you're going to talk about it, and do hope that it can touch some people's heart. And as I stepped out my house this morning, it came to my mind, and he says, you know, it's the saddest thing is that the decisions that we take as parents, the choices that we make as parents, they affect our children's future. You understand? And I think here in St. Kitts and Nevis, we're seeing what's happening in Ukraine, where Russia is bullying and forcing its way through. We listen to America giving all these big talks about, you know, what we can do. And now who's left alone to fight their battles? Ukraine. I listened to Zelensky. I am so sad for that man because everybody talk war. And at the end of the day, it's only one person who has to fight it. It's really a sad situation. And it's not him. It's about the people that are forced in the forefront. We hear how many people have died, and we look at it as nothing. Collateral damage, we call it that's war terms. Human lives has become like rubbles, buildings that are broken down. It's the same way you pick up the body and you throw it away. It's like nothing. And that is what we are, where we have come. And I'm seeing it in St. Kitts. And that is what is hurting me most, because I'm seeing people walking around protesting because they have personal issues. I do understand. We see people go in the background and we force people in the foreground because we want them to fight for you. We see people wanting positions in government just because of position's sake, people who wants to complete the bucket list. It's not about us. And we are so silly that we think that these people are fighting for us. We are Black people. We have been bullied all of our lives. Why? Because we sat down and we did not take a stance. We allow people to think for us. We allow people to help us to choose, not from our own choices because of the experiences that we would have had, but because somebody wants to be positioned somewhere. They say certain things and we are so gullible as Black people. We follow through and we do absolutely the wrong thing. We are living in St. Kitts and Nevis. People are coming in, they're looking at us, and we are progressing. We have stood out amongst all the other countries in the Caribbean. People are talking about our economy, cannot understand how a prime minister can give a double salary after you've had a pandemic. And people are asking now for that government to come. Let me tell you all something, I do not support any political party. For those of you who believe that, sorry. Surprise, surprise, surprise. I support a government that will take into consideration its citizens, who would take taxes or reduce VATs when it has been placed on us. I support a government that look at poor people who have no job, create a program that they can work. I support a government that look at houses for poor people and create areas where poor people can take stands. That is the government I support, not personal interests. I don't. So those of you who feel it doesn't matter if you go in and you perform, you have my support. You go in and you do what you're not supposed to do, I am going to talk about it. So those of you who want to walk around with a placard, look at what's happening into Ukraine. And those of you who sits, and because you call yourself Labour, PLP, PAM, CCM, you're branded by a party's name, and you sit down when they do wrong, you applaud them. When the other party does right, you condemn them. That for me is stupidity. I don't want to be that kind of person. And if you want to be that kind of person, look at what's happening to Ukraine right now. All of those people who were touting, yeah, we're going to be there for you. We are going to support you. At the end of the day, you're going to give them tankers. You're going to give them planes. You're going to give them missiles. But they're the ones who have to stand behind them and fight. You are not going to get in there. And at the end of the day, we here in St. Kitts and Nevis, we have to start looking at the situation as it is. We think it's up there, but see what's happening at the pump. We need a government who's going to protect us from this. See what's happening in the supermarkets. Prices are rising. We can't afford. We need a government who's going to take into consideration that inflation is rising and therefore we have to start increasing salaries. Yes, but in order for governments to increase salaries, you have to have the ability to do so. We need a government that is proactive and not reactive. Everybody wants to be in government. And what they want to go in there for, to make sure that they and their families are well set. If that is what you want, go ahead and vote for your government. That has nothing to do with me. This morning, you're in tune to Your Views. It's Passionate Friday. I am sick and tired of what is happening in the world, and I'm seeing it happening here, where people have become so greedy that all they want is to make sure that they themselves are satisfied. For your information, when I applied to government for land and I get the land, government did not do me a favor. I have to pay for it. So those of you who feel that because government would have given you a piece of land, sold you a piece of land, the government would have done you a favor, well, any government minister who feels like they have done me a favor, surprise, surprise, you have not done so, because I still have to pay for it. I have supported political parties. I have supported governments, and I don't want any benefits. My benefits at the end of the day is that when I go into the supermarket, I could afford to pay. Not just me, but the citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis. That is why I vote in any election, not for political parties. So if those of you who are counting my vote, do not do so. I vote based on performance. So if you're not performing, don't put me on your list, because I'm not going to vote for you. This morning, you're in tune to Your Views. Your Views is a program that is hosted on Win FM every Friday morning. I am your host, Andrew Quilly-Atherton. It's always been a pleasure sitting in, having conversations with you, looking at the world situation, talking about it, looking at problems that we are facing here in St. Kitts and Nevis, and trying to find solutions. There are always solutions, but we can't make people who would have created the problem to be a part of the solution. We see it. People sit in the background. People who were in politics, who were in office, they failed you there then, and now they want you to help them to get back there, because they thought that when they got rid of the Labour government, because they were having problems, that the unity government was going to help them. Because they didn't get what they wanted, they come again to you. And look at us, stupid citizens, walking the roads, placards, going around trying to bring down a government that is taking your interests at heart. And if that's what you want, go right ahead. The problem in Ukraine, those of you who are not looking at it, start looking at it, because it's going to affect us big time. Because when America sneezes, we all catch a cold. And we are seeing it right now. They're putting sanctions on Russia. Oil, gas is one of the biggest problems. If we don't have this, the world stops. Or electricity depends on it. Food comes here because of that. Look at what's happening in Canada. The truckers are protesting. It's going on. It's going to be in Washington this weekend. The truckers are protesting. The world, on Wednesday when we woke up to a different world. For those of you who are not aware of it, you better start turning on your radio, start looking at your television, go on the internet. The information is there. But the information is there, but you walk with the ability to analyze. We can't do it. We live in an environment where we are too gullible. People dictate to us. We talk about dictatorship. That is what we like. We like to know that people are dictating to us, because a lot of us do not use our common sense. It's not who talk the hardest. It's not that. The people who speak the loudest are empty barrels. They make the most noise. And we have to be able to assess and look and see what is happening, and they make our decision. That's not our discussion this morning, right, Jamal? I have with me Jamal.
Why not?
I know. It's a world crisis. It hurts me. I saw, what I saw today that really touched me to all this? I look at this old lady who confronted a soldier. She didn't have any guns. She had absolutely nothing. She went with some sunflower seeds. Mm-hmm. And it's sad because, it's not the people who start wars, would fight wars. Look at Zelensky. His family, like he said, they are citizens of Ukraine. They did absolutely nothing, and he is target number one. His family's a target number two. You're going to be killed for what? Trying to help people? At the end of the day, that's what my life matters. All the good things that I would have done, me and my family becomes a target because what we did. You have a bully who wants to just come in and decide he wants to dictate to the people. And some of the people wants that because some people benefit from it. And that is the world we're living today. But this old lady, she confronted the army, the soldier, and she said, "Why are you here? We didn't call you. Why are you here? What are you doing here?" And he's saying, go back. And she said, "No, take some sunflower seeds, put it in your pocket and lie down and see if you can serve a purpose. See if they would grow." It's this sad thing. But, I felt bad for the soldier because he himself doesn't even know why he's there. Yeah. People start wars, but they do not fight them. That is one of the sad things. Your children are placed in front of an armored car, a plane flying overhead, dropping missiles, and your child is in the middle of this. I feel so sorry for parents here in St. Kitts and Nevis who have the children out there on the front line. And the reason why that happens because a lot of us run to America to born our children, to give birth to our children because we thought that was an opportunity for their future. But look at them who wouldn't have a future. It's so sad. The decisions that we make as parents determines our children's future. And it's something that we don't understand. We look at what benefits us and not what benefits them.
Yeah.
Because there are parents here today who are looking glued to the news because they know that their child is in the front line. We don't know what it feels like. I have friends there. My daughter has a friend, and she's really, I've never seen her so glued to anything before. But, it's the fear, and she doesn't even know what's going on. It's the sadness. She said, but why does this have to happen? And it's happening because of people like us, greed.
Yes.
Power hungry.
Not just that, but the military, especially in the U.S., is very glamorized. Mm-hmm. And they don't show you what happens after.
Yeah.
I've seen, and you know this because, I was married to a U.S. Marine. And they don't see the after effects when someone comes home with PTSD. Wow. And a family is left to have to now cope with that. And then you go to the VA, the Veterans Affairs Department, and you try to get assistance. And the assistance that is there is simply to coddle this person. It's not necessarily to confront the fact that what they were exposed to was within itself wrong, but it's to cover that and to coddle that wound and to pretty much just put a Band-Aid over it.
Wow. So
that they can forget what it is that's really bothering them instead of dealing with the core problem. And you said it earlier, and I'm just gonna, paraphrase that, but when we don't interpret things for ourselves, we allow other people to interpret things for us. And we leave everything open. When things are open to interpretation like that, then we're just sheep. We're just sheep being carried out for the slaughter. Mm-hmm. And we're put at the forefront. And as you said earlier as well, we don't start these wars, but we are put at the forefront. And when you look at the U.S. military, for example, it's funny because when you look at business in the U.S., if there was a model from top to bottom, you would definitely see that there is a color scheme.
Yeah.
When you look at the U.S. military, there is also a color scheme, but it is in reverse. As Black people, we are the majority when it comes to certain things. And it's because our lives are very disposable in certain people's eyes. It's okay if our children are the ones out there on the forefront and things like that. And I would hear, politicians talk about how many of their children have gone off to the military and stuff like this. But they don't exactly, they don't, divulge that type of information and let us know exactly what they're doing. And they are very protected. Mm-hmm. They're much more protected than the average soldier is over there. Mm-hmm. And it's unfortunate that we think in St. Kitts that because it's not on our doorsteps yet, that doesn't affect us. I don't live there, so that's not my problem. Mm-hmm. That's not my child, so that's not my concern. That's America's business. Let them deal with it. But it's a domino effect. Mm-hmm. Like you said, when America sneezes, we all catch a cold. We catch the flu. So we definitely need to be more in tune with what's going on and be a lot more compassionate. Because at the end of the day, this is not just a country's issue. This is a human issue. And the moment we start looking at people as, just citizens of a place instead of human beings, then we completely lose sight of humanity and what it means to actually be a people united. That's the problem. We don't know how to stand together. We stand for things that benefit us individually, but when it comes to putting your own personal interests aside and doing something for the benefit of an entire country, it's far and very few in between who can really stand up and do that. I've seen people here who they have a home, they are comfortable, and yet in their mind, their right to land and a house is higher than someone else who has absolutely nothing.
Yep.
At what point do we stop and go, I don't care if all of my friends already have houses or lands or whatever. Is that something that I need? And am I taking something away from someone who actually does need it? Because that's how we have to look at things. I grew up here doing pageants, and I can't tell you how many times I've had people, and I used to say it's throwing it in my face, but now it's an opportunity for me to almost educate the other person on the other end, because it's been thrown at me so many times. Well, how come you don't have this here yet? And how come you don't have that? And the government should have given you A, B, C, D. And for me, it's no. Just because I went on stage, that doesn't put my needs and my interests above anyone else's. The ability for me to prance around on a stage should not take away someone's chance to get a home or to get a land. Because what it comes down to is, am I content with what I have in compared to what you think I should have? And am I okay with what I have? I'm okay with what I have. And I'm okay with what I have to work toward. I love being able to say that I had to take out a student loan and go to school and work hard and get a job on the side and pay my student loan off, and nobody handed me anything. It wasn't for a lack of trying, but sometimes when these doors close, they give us an opportunity to dive into ourselves and really see what we're worth. Because when I look on the sides of the streets and I see people on the side, whether they're selling fruits, vegetables, popcorn, and all this stuff, I look at that and I feel proud. Because as minor as it might seem to somebody else, the pandemic forced a lot of us
To become creative.
Exactly. And to really try to step up to our true potential. Because we can there's nothing a government can hand us that we cannot work hard enough and achieve for ourselves.
One of the things that I can't, it baffles me as Black people. We always go back to slavery and say how Black people were enslaved. I don't think they ever delve into what really transpired there. We listen to the stories from people based on where you are, where your position, the story changes. But for us as Black people, we go and tout the same thing. Oh, we were sold into slavery. Oh, this is the situation. We came here. The white man treated us like such, and this is the situation. We were always in the majority. You're telling me that we're in a plantation with how many slaves, and you have how many, one planter with small amount, and we sat there and we allowed them to do that?
Yes.
Look at our mentality today. It's the same way. It has not changed. Yeah. We are never together. We can never unite. We always pull down each other as Black people.
Yes.
We always want people to push us up, but we always want to pull down. I open a shop, they're not going to buy from me. I'm local. A Syrian open a shop. A Chinese man open a shop. They're going to go to the Chinese and buy faster because when she done, she has a big house, or she has so many cars, and that is the Black mentality. So people are I'm going to get bashed for this, but let me let you, those of you who wants to come, let me let you know. I have a mind of my own. I think for myself, and I'm not dictated to. Everybody has a story. And like I said, based on what book you would have read, based on how you were influenced, based on who spoke to you, then that is your narrative. But we as Black people, we have the ability to do so much, but we have not done anything. All we do is sit, criticize, say how we were bullied, say how we were enslaved, and we hold on to slavery.
Yeah.
It's a pity party that we throw every time. We have the ability to rise up, but we don't want to because we were a lazy bunch.
And unfortunately, it's a double-edged sword.
It is.
Because I think one of the problems in supporting and coming together is because sometimes when we see those people who make it to the top, instead of extending a ladder or a roadmap, they stay at the top and they just want to, like you said, it's greed. They just want more and more, and they don't want to give anything back. They don't look back to the community. They don't look back to the people who aided them in getting to where they are.
But listen,
They're very forgetful when it comes to that. But if you had people at the top extending a hand down to the bottom, then the people at the bottom would be more inclined to assist those people to get to the top, because we don't all have the same abilities. And if we're both on the same path, but you have something within you that I see is going to get you there faster, and I'm trying to get to the same destination, then what is the problem in me helping you to get there? But we have this competitive nature where it's, well, like you said, why should I help this person? Why should I support this person? And she's going to have a bigger house. What does that matter if when that person gets there, they can now come back and show you the way and help you to get there yourself?
And I know this is going to touch a lot of nerves because it happens and it's a fact. When a black man succeeds, look behind him. There trails a white woman. When a black woman succeeds, look behind her. Trails behind a white man or somebody of a different ethnic group. We do not pull our own because we're not good enough. And that is one of the big problems I have. So when I hear those hypocrites talking, when you look at people at the top and who they pull up when they're on top, not black people. They always, black people always have to stay down. When you think you push somebody to the top to help you, it gives me I always think about what America does. America go around, they help China because they want China to help them fight against Russia. When China reaches to the top, China sides with Russia. America has to find somebody else. They help Iran. After Iran reaches to a certain position, you feel like America is your enemy. It's the same thing that happens amongst us as black people. Yeah. We don't help each other. And then when I don't believe, that's why I don't take on this Black History Month. I don't do it. Because it's a lot of hypocrites, people who are not self-made, who have been pushed into position. You put them there to talk to you for you. But at the end of the day, they can't talk for you because they are eyeing the other side. Because here, a black man cannot get you to the top. We're already at the bottom. So you can't carry me up. So I'm going to take somebody. When I'm already on the top, I'm going to take somebody to keep me up there because I have to flash. This is who it is. I remember Michael Holding spoke about the story when he was going out. I mean, I don't even know why he spoke about the story because he had a white woman with him then. And she was allowed to go forward. He was not because he was a black man. They look at him, but they didn't look at her. And the question you ask, and I would have said that to Mikey Holding, I would have felt bad if I were you.
Yeah.
Let you walk around with a colored woman just like yourself. Experience that. But that's what happens every time or black men reaches to the top or black women reaches to the top or the ministers of government and whoever they are, they always trail with some white somebody or somebody of a different ethnic group along beside them. And then you're going to talk for me and talk about Black History Month and where we are and how we get there. And the people who can help are the ones on the top.
We all need to assess our attitudes. And there is a lot of hypocrisy. And you're right, way too much. We all need to really reflect and assess our own attitudes because in some ways we all contribute to these types of behaviors because we have to ask ourselves why. It can't simply be because this person just wants a specific color or ethnic group represented next to them. But there has to be a reason why they see less value in having someone who looks like them next to them. And that's what it comes down to. We have to start recognizing our own value and living up to our potential. We can't wait for people to tell us that we're good.
And that's what it is. We always have to have somebody to tell you how good you are. And it's the black man's mentality. Why? I used to say, but we can't blame them because, they grew up in slavery, they were dictated to, and it's a mentality that's handed down. We were brainwashed, but we've seen the light. So why we always have to use that as an excuse? For me, when I was growing up, it was big time because I was always interested in why black people have to, why we're in the majority but yet forced in the minority. Why do we always have to be placed in situations? Yes. We are stronger than them, we say. We are brighter than them, we say. We have more power than them in every which way, physically, mentally, otherwise. But yet still we are dictated to. I used to ask the question, but then I recognized the problem.
A lot of the times we do it to each other.
Yeah, but we are humans. And let us start looking at us as humans then. And that is what my approach has been now. There's no white people, there's no black people, there's no Chinese and no Indian.
Just
we are
people.
human.
Yes, we're
and let us
just
start
people.
loving one another and see if we can make a better world. When you have that class thing, stratification, you have issues. And that is what it was intended for us to start to look at us as black people. And are you black, German? You have so many different type of blood running through your vein. We have had that. So let us start looking at us as humans then and start to love ourselves, and then we can love each other. And then the world will be a much better place.
Yes.
But this is one of the big issues that we have.
And another thing too is I find that some people are very racially ambiguous when it benefits them.
Yeah.
I'm 100% black and I'm proud of it, depending on the crowd that I'm around. And then if I'm around people who are of another ethnicity, then it's, well, I have some French in me, and I have some. So it's like now you're afraid to be proud of that so-called 100%
Like
blackness. So I don't like the racial ambiguity when it comes to that, because I feel like you're either proud of who you are, all of who you are, and there's nothing saying that you have to put yourself in a box, because I don't. And when I see those things, even on application, like, what is your race? I jokingly sometimes put human, and then they'll come back and they'll ask, well, can you specify? And I would put, I'm Afro-Caribbean.
Yeah.
Because I find that to be a very offensive question, in all honesty. What race are you? There is only one
A
race.
100% sprinter. meter sprinter. That's my race. That's the one that I run. And I used to make a lot of joke of that. Every time I'm still waiting for my 400 meters dash. That's, it's what it is. And that's what the world presents to us.
Yes.
And we sit there and we use it. Every day we sit down. Oh, black people have been oppressed over the years. And we are still in oppression. And we are so much aware of it.
Yes.
And we're still being oppressed by who when you're part of the majority?
The chattel slavery is for the most part, at least in most places, that's over. But the mental slavery,
We can't free
we
ourselves
have
from.
to start looking in the mirror and take responsibility for the fact that we are responsible as well for the mental chains that are still wrapped around so many of us, because we hold ourselves and each other down, and we hold ourselves down when we hold each other down. Because as you were mentioning earlier, if a black woman goes after a successful black man, the black community would be very quick to point the finger at her and call her a gold digger.
Yeah, gold
To
digger.
see a white woman next to that successful black man, it's, well, this
She's
is what
helping him.
this is what
She's
we
helping him.
expect.
Yeah.
So it's our mindsets. Why is it that in our minds we already associate greatness, and we associate value, and we associate worth with a certain ethnicity? And yet when it comes to our own people, we look at that as, well, she has to want something, or he has to have an agenda for wanting to be with this black woman. Why can't it just be like this black man and this black woman love each other? Or they both feel like they can assist each other and help each other to elevate in their lives. There's nothing wrong with it. And we diminish ourselves when we start to diminish one another, because it makes us just kind of step back and we look at other people and we judge them and we judge what they have. And it's not fair to them and it's not fair to us, because a lot of the times we don't even know how hard people had to work to get to where they are. And we sit back, and I always laugh when I see people, on social media, and they will make these memes and all types of things, and that's relationship goals. When they see, for example, a Michelle and Barack Obama together, that goal that you admire so much, that required work. And that man and that woman had to go against the grain of everything that society told them was right and okay. He didn't have to be with that black woman, and she didn't have to be with that black man, but they chose to be with each other. So at some point we have to kind of ask ourselves, how hard are we willing to work, and how much do we care about what society has to say and what they're going to think of us? Because what's wrong with being with a black man, whether he's rich or poor, and just living your life and being content with what you have? Absolutely nothing.
We are such a confused race. And I say it.
We're very greedy, and everything is
True.
about money, and everything is about perspective. What does the image of my life appear to be to everyone else on the outside? The most beautiful home, and it's chaos
Yeah.
on the inside. You're miserable on the inside. You're completely alone. You feel unhappy. You're not being the best parent you can be. You're not being the best spouse you can be. But on the outside, you have a beautiful home. So you're in a prison, but it's golden.
Yeah.
It's a prison, whether your shackles that are holding you back are silver, gold, or made from diamonds, you're still imprisoned. And it's more of a mental imprisonment than anything else because we don't know how to work with each other. It's referencing the back to slavery, and if all of us are on a plantation. The problem is if we're all on the same plantation and one person sees the potential in everyone else and decides today is the day that we should all get up and run. If 50 others decide that they're too coward to run, that's a problem. If another 10 goes, well, why do you want to run? And they start questioning that person. Who put you in charge anyway? It becomes a problem. So there's never any, I'm not saying that I'm okay with people making unilateral decisions on behalf of all Black people, but we need to start having conversations that include all of us. Bring everyone to the table and listen to what everyone has to say. Like I often ask myself, how often are these politicians sitting with the average, man or woman in St. Kitts and asking them not just what can I do for you personally, but what is it that you think that I can do for the country on a whole, or how can you assist me in being a better representative of the country? Because you're not representing the person, you're representing the country. So self-interests need to and have to be put aside in order for this to work, because we can't have everyone running around going, I need this and I need that, because if a government is just trying to cater to everyone's personal needs, you're going to run out of money, you're going to run out of resources, and at the end of the day, you're not going to be able to please all of your citizens anyway.
And that has been a big problem for me, and we see that. We see where, and it's sad that we're going to say, because to this Black History Month, I'm going to tell you where Black people have positioned themselves, because we have positioned ourselves. We sit down and we want to show pity parties, we want people to look and reward us. Give us what they think we deserve. We never try to earn what we think or position ourselves to where we deserve. A Black man and a white woman, and please don't get me wrong, I love people. I am a people's person. It matters not what your ethnicity is. I like people. I am human, and we all are human. We have different cultural differences. Black people were taught early o'clock how to love. We grew up in an environment where we didn't have one family. We had a village and we were all families. We had a country and we were all family. We understood what togetherness was. We understood what unity is. And when people start talking about Blackness, and we started talking about Africa, understand the history of Africa, understand where Black people came from, understand the environment that we grew up in, understand that unity began with us. You couldn't identify and say that was the Queeley family, that was the Duggins or Huggins family. You didn't have that. We were all one community. Things would have changed. We came to the West. I don't know what happened then. I'm too young to know about what transpired. I read books, but like I said, it based on the environment, based on who wrote the book, is the information that we get. I'm not looking at that. I sit down and I start to do my own analysis. I come to my own conclusion. The world is divided because of a purpose, and we're all buying into that. And that is why we're here. Black people, we allow people to use us. They have used us then, and they continue to do so now. They put us against each other because divided we fall, united we stand. Every time you see a group of Black people in America, you see what happens? You see a group of Black boys on the street, police is going to hunt you down because they feel like you're getting ready to do something. We have been stigmatized, and we allow it because what? Look at these young men walking around town. Their pants halfway down. They're exposing their boxers. We tend to grab on to other people's culture. That is not how we were raised. That is not what we believe in. But the internet and the information, you go to America, we become two Americans. We as Black people, we are adaptable. We adapt to every situation. We take a people's culture and make it ours. It is not something that you're accustomed to. You teach your children to be otherwise. They go out and you have a conversation. It's amazes me. My daughter or my son will leave home as a Kiddishan or a Nivision. comes back home talking like an American, never been to America, but has one of the strongest American accent because they're influenced. And that's what black people are. I came to St. Kitts. I could not speak like a Nivision because they would look down on me. Oh, listen to the girl there. Hear what she say. You can't even understand what she talk about. Because, and I hid that because I was afraid that people were going to look down on me. As a Nivision, I'm less than a Kittish. We come from a poor background and we hid that. As black people, we are afraid to stand up, stand tall, and allow people to become like us. Instead, we become like them. And that is one of the biggest problems that I have. I hear people going around talking about reparation and money for slavery and the time that we would have spent. To do what? You were not there. Your foreparents would have lived that. The sad part about it is that we have shamed them because we are still in the same position that they were. We are still mentally enslaved.
Yes,
we
are.
have shamed the fight that they would have fought for us to get where we are. We have shamed them. And look what we want to collect monies on their behalf because we think that somebody can pay you off, give you a university, give you some stuff. No, we have to assert ourselves, put ourselves in position and show that all foreparents were pushed there because they had no choice. I mean, they had a choice, but they gave in, but they fought themselves. They fought their way back. We live in a world that we can all make a difference. What do? We still sit in the same place. See how England can pay you off. See how America can pay you off. The planters get paid, so you should as a slave. I was never a slave. And I'm not going to fight for any slaves. I am free. And what I try to encourage people to be free, we have to now use the freedom that we have to make a difference. Not sit down and wallow and go back in time. If we continue to hold on to the past, we'll never be able to embrace the present or the future.
But we're also one of the largest perpetuators of using each other and putting each other down. So all these, when we point the finger at other people and talk about what they're doing to us and how it's like when I look at violence, especially in the U.S., for example, and I would see people marching in the streets in the thousands, and I go, well, where is this marching when black men are killing hundreds of black men a year in that country? Where's the marching then? It shouldn't have to be about color.
Exactly.
It should be about human beings and it should be about people, individuals. But for some reason, we don't understand that there definitely is an agenda. That's why they don't stop those marches most times, because they want the division. They want to keep the hate fueling, and they want to have us looking at each other and warring with each other, because war creates opportunities to make profit. No one wants peace because peace is too boring and no one benefits financially from
Everybody
peace.
becomes the same on the same level. You don't have power when you have peace.
Exactly.
That's one of the big things. And that is something that you want to establish. You want to become powerful. We see that here. Government has to create a peace program where you're paying people to stop killing their own black people. That is the saddest thing.
Instead of removing those people
this
off
is the whole
streets.
problem that we have. And we as sensible Kittitians and Nivisians, as we boast that we have that 95, 98% literacy rate, we sit here and we watch the government having to pay our own people to stop killing their own people. Okay, the government would have taken that initiative, which is sad, but it's the reality. And then we want to sit back and we want to talk about, oh, look at the Chinese are coming in and taking over. The white people are coming in and taking over. What are you doing as a black man? Taking up arms against your own black people, fighting for areas, for things that you don't know because you see it on American TV. You are guarding boundaries and range and areas you can't come in. It's not yours.
Yeah.
What are you fighting for it for? And that is what you spend your days for. Instead of going out and finding a job, you sit there and you decide that this is your territory and you're going to guard it. Guard it for what happens in your territory? What are you doing to build your territory? These are the nonsense that we buy into.
Yes.
And then we start to have Black History Month and we take up the microphones and go and talk about how we've been so oppressed and by whom.
But other people feed on that.
Yeah.
I remember having a debate once with someone, with actually one of my older colleagues, and we were talking about what was going on in Africa with the fighting in Rwanda and stuff like that. And I remember her saying to me, well, yes, America supplied weaponry and gave aid in that way, but we didn't tell them to kill each other. Oh. She said they did that to themselves. And, that was like a an aha moment for me because she was so right.
Yeah.
Even if they put the blade in our hands, we are still the ones that slit each other's throats.
Definitely.
We do it in the way we handle each other with business. We will keep each other down. I walked into a store right here in St. Kitts yesterday, and I was so curious that I asked the young woman, how were you able to come here and do this? Because this idea is not unique. It's not original. I've heard a lot of people, including some of my own friends, talk about doing this, but they were always met with some kind of obstacle, whether it was not being able to get a proper loan from a bank or something. How was it that you were able to do this? And she said, it was just an idea that I had, and I came here and I just did it. No one stopped me.
And this is it. There are people who have that discipline and with the desire to grow. And I hear people talk about me sometimes, but I don't care. That's water for ducks back. I'm only mentioning it now because I'm having the discussion. Everybody look at you and think that you're rich. I tell people, if I tell people my lifestyle and how I grew up, I used to have to head water from down by the dam all the way up the pasture so that we can get water to cook and bathe. We didn't have a bathroom like people think that you have. And people are ashamed to talk about the past.
Yeah.
When I tell people the life that I lived, but I loved it. We had fun. We had a great home. We had love, happiness. Everything was going. We didn't have the monies to buy the things that we want. But in those days, money was not, we had all that we thought we had because everybody lived the same life. So if you want to look at how I grew up and call that poverty, well, I had to call that fun. It was the best days of my life. We had nothing, but we had each other. Now you have money, you have no family because everybody look at what you have. They don't want to be a part of it because they think that you're bigger or you think you're better than anybody else. You have division, you have hate, you have all that. In my days, our neighbors, when my mother didn't have anything to cook, we go play with the neighbors' children and they'll give you a little bit of food.
Yes.
And you would eat that. And if you feel like, oh, I like what Marbell cooking because her food smell good, you go and you call out Heather and you start playing because, when Marbell decide, come, you're going to get a little bit of food. And that was our life. We were not separated or we were not identified as who. We were a community where everybody was united.
But the interpretation of wealth is also important because what I perceive to be wealth might not be what someone else thinks is wealth. I don't have to have, a bank account with a bunch of zeros behind it for me to be wealthy. Wealth for me is having good health and strength and a supportive family and having people you can genuinely call friends. That is wealth for me. Being able to wake up every day and I don't have a single complaint with what my body's doing. My mobility's there. I can still see because all the money in the world at the end of the day when certain things befall us, the money is still the thing that cannot save us.
A wealth is relative. I have a wealth of knowledge. I have a wealth of health. I have an abundance wealth is an abundance of. And so if I have an abundance of joy, I had a wealth of happiness in our home. It's an abundance of happiness. So I was wealthy. Maybe I didn't have the money or what people think because people think money is wealth. But I didn't have that. But I had a home. And every time I sit back and I go back to my memories and I reminisce, I want to go back to those days. Those were the days when we climbed the mango trees. A group of us would sit down on a stone and would have mangoes. We were full. What you want money and food for? Your belly is already full. So what else do you need? When the guavas were in season, you sit down, you eat guavas. At the end of the day, it was difficult for you going to the bathroom, but it was fun. You were full. So what do you want money to buy chicken and chips for? This is one of the things that we can't seem to understand, that everybody wants to be rich, not having an understanding of what richness is.
And what do you want
it for? Exactly.
And when we walk over one another to achieve that, then we definitely do ourselves a huge disservice because I've seen people sometimes and I just go, and even in having conversation with them, you can tell very quickly what's most important to a person based on what they talk about most.
Definitely.
And you can also tell their fears. And I can tell that for a lot of people, their biggest fear is losing their home, losing their money, losing their car, losing their job. And I always tell people one of my biggest fears is losing my mind. Because I can
Definitely.
lose my home, I can lose, I can lose the money in the bank, but as long as I still have my mind,
You have it
I
all.
can always figure out a way to make it through. If I lose the home, somebody's going to put me on a couch somewhere. But we live in a society when things befall us, we have a tendency to look down on one another. Instead of trying to help the other person, it's, oh, remember when she used to be this and she used to have this and she used to have that. We are all one bad mistake away, one bad choice away, one bad natural disaster away,
becoming that.
one economical situation away from losing absolutely everything that is tangible.
I look at those people in Ukraine, and I see them trying to flee the capital, Kiev, and you see what they're going with: a bag, nothing else. You look back and you see all that you would have held on to. They're just going up in rubbles.
Yeah.
The tanks, they're coming in and they're just shooting down everything. You have nothing to come back to. You look at the rubbles, you see the computers, you see what a home used to look like, and it hurts you. But at the end of the day, the people who are occupied there, they're safe, they're running for their lives. You don't know what tomorrow holds. And that is one of the things. I like what you said. We are just that away from becoming that. And for us, we have to stop it. That is what caused division amongst us.
Yes.
The things that other people have that we want, that covetous spirit that we have, those Christian
Yes.
people who should read the Bible and understood what happens to Lot's wife when she was told to flee, and she looked back and see all of the stuff that she was leaving and she didn't get a chance.
Yeah.
As long as you have life, you have hope. As long as you can love every one of us, we'll become stronger together. We can find ourselves, when people are stranded or deserted, find themselves on a deserted island, what do you find? Everybody huddles together, everybody wants to be a part, and you have that we want to be safe. We are going to fight together. You're going to build a house, somebody's lifting one part of the branch, somebody's carrying, and you see what teamwork would have done for survival.
Yes, you
We
said
do
it.
that.
It's teamwork.
Yeah.
I've met people overseas who are from St. Kitts, and after talking to them, and hearing their stories, for some reason they just felt that they could trust me to open up. And I would hear some of these stories, and one of the first things that would come to my mind would be, have you ever thought about going back home? And one of the first things unanimously I get every single time is, me, for those people back home to judge me. And it's so disheartening. It's so sad, Sandra, because this is home. This is supposed to be the place where, if all else fails, or even if all goes well, this should be the place where we want to come back to. And you have your family here, you have your friends here, but you feel as though they're going to look at your life and they're going to look at your choices. And because their circumstances are not your circumstances, they feel like they understand what you're going through, and they feel like they understand what got you here, and they're quick to judge you. And I've encouraged people, don't be afraid to go home. You may be the topic for a month, you may be the topic
And
for
so
2
what?
months,
You
and even
should
if
be a
you are,
topic.
that will change. But it is better for you to go where you are going to have your mind, you're going to have peace, you're going to be with family, you're going to feel loved and safe, and you're going to be okay, rather than staying out there. And and people here talk about it all the time. They'll say, oh, so many people are overseas, and they make you think that they're living these grand lives and they're out there struggling. We're struggling no matter where we are. But what does it say about you that those people would rather stay out there and struggle than come back home to have to face you? That says more about you than it actually does about them. Because if you created a safe haven, it doesn't matter what's going on out there. We would always be quick to flood back home when things are happening. It's like St. Kitts is supposed to be like our mother. And your mother is always that place where no matter what happens, even if you grow up and you get married, you have kids, you hit hard times and you feel like it's okay to go back home to mom, go back home to that house that you grew up in. This is what St. Kitts should be. This is what it is for me. And that's why I always say, it doesn't matter what happens to me, out there. I am never going to struggle a day in my life anywhere if I know that I can come back home. I'd rather do it here than do it anywhere else.
But you see, and I do agree with what you're saying, Jomo. But at the end of the day, you said it earlier, what does that say about you when people are afraid to come back to where they belong?
Yes.
And we have to stop and look at it even deeper. It says a lot for who we are.
Yeah.
We always have to look and judge. People always are happy for other people's demise.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I know it was going to happen. They sit there and they would sit there tirelessly and they wait
Yes.
just because they want to see you
Yes.
fall. That is the black man's mentality. And if we continue to do so, we've talked enough. And I'm going to talk about Black History Month. I'm not going to go out there and talk about what black people struggle. That's not my fight. That's not my call. Black people have to learn to stand up. They always want somebody to fight for their cause. We have to recognize who we are. We have to position ourselves where we want to be. We have to stop looking back and start looking forward. We always want to make sure somebody's behind us, pushing us.
Yeah.
You're not looking, you can work yourself to whatever position. The Chinese work, they work tirelessly. The white man he worked tirelessly. The Indians work, they are up first thing in the morning. What happened to the black man? He wants to watch TV. He wants to sit there and he wants to gossip. He wants to make sure that England pay for reparation. He wants to make sure somebody has to give him some insurance, can give him some money because they had a fake fall. And when people say that's who we are, loathsome and lazy, we get upset. But it's a fact.
That's what we show.
I'm not talking about the white man who find himself in a situation where he's homeless. That was his choice. But I'm talking to black people who would have fought for them to position themselves otherwise, who would have given up on that opportunity. That's who I'm talking about.
I remember a few years when, and I told you about this trip when I was in Africa, and I was, at one point, I spent a few days with this family, and it was heaven for me, because when I was younger, I used to always say I want to grow up and live in a big place on a lot of land with all of my relatives. I just wanted to always have people around. And it's so funny because that's how they were living. And when I saw that, I thought to myself, well, where I come from, everybody is, there's nothing wrong with ambition, but it's like they see no value in being together.
Yeah.
Everyone wants their own. Everyone wants to go. They don't see the value in sticking together for a while and taking their time to then get on their own. They rather go out there and struggle and, go pay rent somewhere or do whatever rather than stay with their own families. And I always say to myself, that says a lot about how we look at each other and the value that we place on ourselves and on one another. Because whenever I talk, and I've talked to you about this, I'm always trying to figure out when I come back here, how can I come back and make this the last time I have to leave?
I know.
Because I love when I'm home. And it's sad to me when I say it to other people. You are so encouraging when I talk to you about this. But there's so many people that I mention that to here. And one of the first things they say to me is, why would you want to come back to St. Kitts?
I know.
What are you going to do here? You wouldn't be able to make it in St. Kitts, or you wouldn't be able to, maintain your lifestyle in St. Kitts. And it says so much. It says that they don't value what it is that is here. They don't value the resources that are here. They don't value the people and the contribution that we can all make here to actually make this place work. And this is an amazing place, and it could be so much better if we all learn to just work together and stop putting each other down, because we're so much stronger together than we are apart. You know why when a police officer, for example, in the U.S. drives up and he sees a street corner with a bunch of black men, that is intimidating to him, not only because of the color, because of it's a group of black men, but it's because he sees strength in their numbers.
Exactly. They understand
They
our strength.
understand that when we're together, there is something frightening about that. And it's not always a bad thing, because they understand that it's much easier to manipulate one of them. It's much easier to overpower one of them. But when they're all together, it's very hard to fracture that. It's very hard to break that.
I remember the story that I read, a biography, when they said, when making of a black man, the slave. And I remember when the European I can't remember his name right now, and he went and he came back with a report and he said, it'd be very difficult to enslave Africans because they're together. They live like one community. How can you change that? That was them. And they said, in order for us to break them, what we're going to do, we're going to separate them.
Yes.
We're going to change. We're going to put them together, away from each other. No two language can come together. So we are going to divide them.
And
that's
what they took it even further. We're going to now start, getting into the psyche of it. We're not just going to divide them and change their language. We're going to now start advancing a few of them and let the others see their advancements so that the envy and the jealousy
fight amongst each other. And that's what they did.
Yes.
They put us to fight against our...
Yeah.
Jamal, we're running out of time. But let me tell you, I wanted to change the world. I saw where the world was going, and I wanted so badly to change the world. I wanted to change people's mindset. I understood the fact that we are brainwashed. I wanted to change that. Then I realized the world was a big place to start. So I said, you know what? I want to change the people in St. Kitts. I got on the talk shows and I talk, and I realized, that is such a big thing to do. Let me start working amongst my family. Yeah. Let me change them, and then we will see how we can change St. Kitts, and maybe we can start embarking on changing the world. And I realized 9 of us, and it was so difficult to change their mindset, because one of the hardest things to open is a closed mind. So I said, you know what? Let me start changing me.
Yourself. Yes.
And me, one individual, was such a difficult thing. Because today I'm such a nice person. I'm not going to listen to what people say. Next day, I start listening again. And I realized I could not even change me. So if I can't change me, how am I going to change St. Kitts? And then go on and change? Not even my community, not even my neighbors I could change. Because when my dog barks and the neighbor has a problem with it, instead of me taking the dog inside, I curse my neighbor. How can I change the world when I cannot change myself? And that is what we have to start looking at. If each of us will start looking at how we can change ourselves, we would seriously affect change in the world.
There's a beautiful Quranic quote, and it's actually one of my favorite quotes, which says, in order for God to change the hearts of the people, they must first change what is in their own hearts. And I absolutely love and live by that, because it starts with us.
And if we all can start looking at us, and we start making those little simple changes in us, then guess what? We are changing the world.
Yes.
And it's as simple as that. But, we have to really start looking at who we are, what we are doing to our nature, what God would have done for us, creation of human beings, and where we're putting ourselves. We are getting rid of ourselves. Humans are destroying themselves. We are destroying ourselves, and we have to start looking. Otherwise that's what the problem is going to be. We're out of time. It's always a beautiful thing. And for those of you, Jamal has one more Friday. I'm going to encourage her to come that Friday, because she's leaving the Friday afternoon. And we're going to see how we can continue this small little talk and see how many people that we can affect. It is Friday. Omicron, we have all kind of stomach flus. Children are coming down with all kind of colds. We have to be careful. Let's continue to exercise caution. Make sure we hand sanitize, social distance, wear a mask, and the life that we save can be very well one of your relatives. Let's do that and see how we can make St. Kitts a better place. Again, my name is Sandra Quilliatson. It was a pleasure, and I look forward to doing this next week, Friday. Stay tuned to Win FM 98.9. Voices is up next.